talk a little bit more about this. So last time we came in here and we talked about this, okay? And there's a little bit more here, okay, that I want to go over. I found a couple more images, is what I'm saying. And it really pushes some of my point even further because I've now seen even more. The flip heads, as I said, I gave my opinion about it and I said what I'm worried about. But I also said that these are very blatantly toys. They're $10 toys, okay? And maybe we need to wait to see a couple more figures to get an idea of what exactly they're going to do with this, which gives us an idea of what was passed, okay? Because we took an idea what the line was, then Hasbro handed the line off to another company, Playmates. And these are what we're getting. We are also getting the Megazord, which I talked about my problems with that. But at the same time, I need to keep saying these are toys. These are not the same idea as the $25 value, $30 value figures, okay? Those are more collector's items. They're more in the adult realm of stuff. They're not necessarily toys. But we got another release of information here, okay? We got Goldar, Putty Patroller, Rita Repulsa. These are also toys, okay? So I'm just going to push that right now. They're even toys to the point of having full-on action features. Like the Putty Patroller, for some reason, has like a spinning head, I guess. I can see a little bit more now in terms of what the articulation is on these guys. We got Goldar here, who has the wings that flap, I'm guessing when you push the legs in, which means also that it's going to stop part of his articulation. And we have Rita that throws her hand up for spell casting, which is really just the same kung fu karate chop thing that we've seen in other toys over the years. That's all that is. They just gave her an effect for her hand. And her hands, by the way, look dreadful. There's not enough paint on the hands to distinguish that they're just really weird robot-looking hands, as opposed to those are supposed to be like rings and, stuff on her hands. Aside from that, we also got to look at the next wave of Rangers, which are right here. These are more the Ranger Toys department. And these are not the flip heads. These are kind of what their Ranger toys are going to look like. Big weapons, like the dagger is really big. The sword is fine. The axe is fine. The bow personally doesn't seem big enough if you were to combine all the weapons. The guns are kind of bulky on their sides, which seems a little off to me. But that is the new Rangers. This is the reignition line. So we've left the Lightning Collection line, farmed the license out, and made this. And I have to say, this is why I'm worried about Hasbro farming out their license. Say what you will about Hasbro, and say what you will about Mattel. I understand that they are businesses, they are corporate empires, and they make crappy corporate decisions. They fire people. They don't give enough people certain forms of respect. They succeed, then lay people off. They make ridiculous profit margins and then never prepare for the idea that they may have downtime later on down the line because they line the pockets of their investors, and then the investors get a whole bunch of money and the CEOs get a whole bunch of money, but then they never actually have enough money in the budget to handle the workforce they currently have. So one even minor failure that takes their divot down about that far, all of a sudden they're laying off 2,000 people. They make crappy corporate decisions that affect the lives of regular people. That's big businesses. That's not what I'm here to argue. What I am here to say is that they took a line which was very blatantly being made for adult collectors. It was. We can argue how much of the toy industry is actually sold to kids, how much of it is sold to young adults, how much of it is sold to older adults. I don't care. That's not what I'm here to argue. What I'm here to say is that if you are selling a line of Power Rangers, especially Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, those are not being sold to kids. They're not. That is not their Power Rangers. That is not what they grew up with. It's not what they have a nostalgic attachment to. It's not theirs. They don't care. They don't care. And this is being released as Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So you farmed the license. You were making an adult collector series of figures, which were fine for what they were. I didn't buy any of them, but I could see the quality of the figures, and especially the ones that were released at the end of the line, the remaster. Those were some pretty solid figures. I was kind of impressed. They had all the effects, the multiple heads. They had the solid Ranger bodies. Like their paint seemed really. It seemed like those were some fine figures. And then, all of a sudden, you farm that out to Playmates. Most collectors were under the assumption that if you farmed it out to Playmates, the reason was that Playmates would then continue the adult collector line of Power Rangers from Playmates. That is what most people were hoping for. Okay? Even if they were hoping against hope, even if they were like, I know what's going to happen here, but I'm going to hold out hope that maybe Playmates really knocks it out of the park. Well, they're not. Playmates bought this license, immediately reverted it all the way back to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as the first dig, and made $10 toys. Toys for kids, which is fine. And even making that argument, us as adult collectors sometimes buy these toys for kids. I have a couple Ninja Turtle sets that I just thought were really good, even though they were blatantly made for kids. I was like, these are good. I'm going to buy these. That happens. We sometimes dive back into these lines and pick up some nice, cheap, children-esque toys. There's nothing wrong with that. It depends on the kind of stuff you're interested in. And when you make that argument, some people are very interested in older-looking action figures, and older-looking action figures look like toys, and this would very much fit that kind of criteria. I'm not saying that adults won't go buy some of these, but what I am saying is that this move feels like it alienates all the serious collectors that were more about modern sculpted action figure toys for Power Rangers. And the reason I worry about it, to reiterate, just like we said in the last video, to reiterate this point, because I think it's important. If they are willing to do that, then what promises do we have? None. Let me just go ahead and answer that. The answer is none. But what promises do we have that they won't farm the license out for G.I. Joe? Farm the license out for Ghostbusters? Would that be a good idea? Would Playmates remake the original stuff and maybe even give us the Firehouse? I don't know. I don't know. What if Hasbro farms out its Transformer license and we get very, very, very children Transformers? Like just blatantly toys. What if they farm out the Marvel license? Stop making Legends. I know that I'm jumping off the deep end here. Who knows what could happen? But let's be honest. Who knows what could happen? Let's say this goes over very well. I don't think it will. But let's say that somehow, people jump on this. They see an opportunity to get cheap toys. They kind of buy them. There's a little bit of nostalgia there. They buy them up. They even buy some for their kids and whatnot because these are toys. These aren't like $25. These aren't like $30 action figures where you got to buy something like this, and it could even be hard to find, and it's very blatantly not really designed with a child in mind. These are toys. These are back to the basics. These are action figures, and you could buy them for yourself and immediately at $10 a pop buy the entire wave twice for $20 a figure, basically, and because, you'd buy one for you and one for your kid, and then you have a set that are in box or whatever, if you're an in box, or out of box if they're your toys, and then a set for your kids that they could play with and destroy if they wanted. They could play with those toys every bit as hard as you did when you were a kid, and who cares? That's cheap. That's cheap, affordable, doable. You do it. And this goes over very well, and they sell, and they make money. And Hasbro sees dollars. Dollars means profit, and profit means scales go up. And scales go up mean numbers increase. Numbers increase means money for the company, money for the employees. And I'm talking about CEOs and such. We all know that the lower you are on the chain, the less chance you'll ever see a dime of anything that any of these companies bring in terms of profit. But money for employees, money for shareholders. Shareholders put money back into the company because they're making money, and they say, this is crazy. It worked. This is the way to go. This is the future. Farm G.I. Joe. I'm tired of doing it in-house. It costs us a lot of money. Our profit margin isn't nearly as strong as we were hoping it was going to be. Kill the classified line. Let's do G.I. Joe Reimagine. Give it to Playmates. Terrifying. Legit terrifying. That's the end. That's the end of seeing the modern articulation figures. Except for literally leaving our two main toy industries behind, like Mattel and Hasbro, and saying, look, you guys were the biggest for the longest time. You're now making stupid decisions. We're all going import. It's not as impossible as we would like to think. This is a very real possibility. I see these figures, and while I'm not necessarily against the figures per se, because I'm not, I am concerned about what this could bring for the future. What about you? Let me know.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.